Well, if they didn't have double standards at the New York Times, there wouldn't be any standards at all. In our defamation lawsuit against the New York Times, we are now getting to the phase of discovery. That means we get depositions, we get their emails, we get to put them under oath and get information from them. But the New York Times this week has filed a motion for stay on discovery, a very unusual thing that people usually don't get. And in this motion, they make a mockery of justice, of journalism, and of the law itself. What are they so afraid of? Let's find out. So as you all have committed to memory by now, we have won this historic victory in motion to dismiss against the New York Times from an article where they called our videos, quote, deceptive. The judge in New York State Supreme Court saying the terms deception and disinformation certainly apply to the reporters Maggie Astor and Tiffany Shu's reporting against us. The judge saying we can go to discovery and prove malice in defamation. The judge also noting in this case that the New York Times failed to show in any way that our videos were, quote, deceptive. Under New York state law, Project Veritas is now entitled to proceed to the discovery phase of litigation in this lawsuit. In fact, just last week, Project Veritas had a discovery conference with the New York State Supreme Court, and they informed us we can proceed immediately to discovery. What does that mean? That means that we can take these New York Times reporters and immediately put them under oath and videotape them. And that terrifies the New York Times. It terrifies their lawyers. It terrifies Dean Baquet. And you better believe they're going to do anything, use any means necessary to stop that from happening. See, in their mind, the New York Times gets to ask the questions, but they should never be asked any questions or be held accountable by anybody. As far as we're concerned, we've been deposed many times. We've been transparent about them in all of the lawsuits we've ever litigated. We won every case, and that's what scares them. And that's why the executive editor of the New York Times goes on C-SPAN and calls me a despicable person. He's dripping with vitriol and malice and hatred, describing myself and this organization.
For those of you who saw it, it was an undercover operation in which James O'Keefe, who I think is a despicable person who runs a despicable operation.
Dean Baquet, executive editor of the New York Times, even has the audacity to bring up the Catholic faith in his vitriol towards me personally.
Their sin was greater. Their sin was a sin of lying and subterfuge, and they're just awful.
And these ad hominem attacks brings us to this ridiculous motion for stay on discovery that Dean Baquet's New York Times filed in this case. And that's what brings us to the world of irrationality, the illogical arguments, the fallacious arguments on full display in this motion. The Times argues we should not be permitted to engage in discovery until after the end of the appeal, which could take years. From page 16 of this motion, quote, Project Veritas offered no evidence of defendants' purported motivation in writing the stories, unquote. This is the paradox the New York Times successfully took full advantage of in all of the cases before this one, Project Veritas versus New York Times. See, in a defamation case, if you're a public figure like me, you have to prove actual malice. You have to prove that the person knowingly lied about me, which means I have to effectively get inside the mind of that person. So I have to prove what reporter Maggie Astor was thinking, but the New York Times in this motion is arguing that I can't ask what the reporter was thinking. The New York Times claims in this motion that stopping discovery does no one harm. From page 11, quote, there is no claim that Project Veritas is incurring ongoing damages. Are you kidding me? Facebook relied upon your reporting that you defended his opinion. Facebook sent out millions of messages to people saying that our videos were false information based upon your defamatory article. They sent out maybe tens of millions of messages saying that these videos were false information. In fact, you couldn't even watch them. That's the damaging thing. It's unbelievable. And you have the balls to say to the court that there will be no harm to Project Veritas if these lies stand uncorrected for years while you appeal? Maybe we should tell the New York Times to stop writing articles about us while they appeal. If we apply their own logic and standards, that would be the appropriate thing to do, if there was any sense of law or rationality in this case. Or does that logic only apply when it benefits the New York Times? Quote, denial of a stay here will prejudice the New York Times by effectively making it impossible for them to receive the full relief they seek on appeal, namely dismissal without the substantial cost and burden of discovery. Wrong. New York State anti-SLAPP law expressly permits discovery in response to an anti-SLAPP motion to dismiss, quote, limited to the issues raised in the motion to dismiss. That's right, even if we had not won on that motion to dismiss, we would have deposed the New York Times anyway. Do you hear that, Dean Baquet? We're going to depose you and your journalists. My money is on soon rather than later. And every time one of your people goes on TV and lies about us, every time you write another hit piece, well, that just expands our list of deponents. Mr. Baquet, lawyers for the New York Times, you let your emotions get in the way of telling the truth.
James O'Keefe, who I think is a despicable person who runs a despicable operation.
You can say whatever you want about me. You can throw ad hominem attacks at me and my organization. You think that you're helping your case, but you're only hurting yourself, because we're going to add Nick and Katie and all the other people as deponents. We're going to increase the number of depositions that we're going to be conducting at Project Veritas. And the only thing that you're doing with all this frivolous, irrational conjecture is, well, you're making us more determined to kick your ass in court.